Hello there, welcome to Just the Discs. My name's Brian Sauer, and we talk about Blu-rays here. I am wonderfully honored to be joined by my old friend, Mr. Jonathan Hertzberg from Fun City Editions today. Hello, Jonathan.
Hi, I'm wonderfully happy to be here with you today.
I see you've got a friend there with you. He's got his
Yeah,
back turned to the
he's
camera,
showing
but
his backside to us right now. Yeah,
very nice, very
that's
nice.
Nibbles,
That's
Mr. Nibs.
very nice. Good to have him. So there's a lot to talk about since last time we jawed. You've got two releases, just shipping now that are actually ahead of street date, and then three releases in the hopper that are all very exciting. So, let's dive in here. I know this one's been really long awaited, and that's Heavenly Bodies.
Yeah,
Um, Talk about Heavenly Bodies. What I think for me, maybe the greatest aerobics movie ever made, for what that's worth, you know?
yeah, no, it certainly is. I don't know how much company it has or how much competition it has, but it's certainly in the running,
Yeah.
if not the one to beat. But yeah, we're super excited about Heavenly Bodies. This one's been in the works for like got almost 5 years actually.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was first taught we were first, talking about this movie before the pandemic. So it was actually before we even had released any Fun City titles. That's how far back it goes.
Man.
Um, and just took a long time because of the pandemic and then changes um in the within the company who we licensed it from in terms of personnel. And then also, as it turns out, we had to, once we got really into the weeds with this one, as you know, the soundtrack is very important to Heavenly Bodies. And so
Absolutely.
we had to
Essential.
do, a lot of digging and make people do a lot of digging for paperwork and such. And so, as it turns out, there were three songs that we had to re-clear, the two Bonnie Pointer songs and the Joe Lamont song. We had to re-clear those so that involved more lawyers, people that specialize in you work in music placement, so you have some idea about how this works. So yeah, we had to so that cost a lot more money, obviously, but this is a film where the soundtrack is really important. So anyway, so the soundtrack is now complete. Everything is there. And then of course we did a restoration from the best surviving element or the best of element that anybody could locate. In this case, which is a 35 millimeter internegative, and we did a 4K scan of that. And um, yeah, and this has never been out in a decent version. This is a movie that has been out of circulation for 30 odd years. It never made it out of the tape and laserdisc days. And so, and as we know, as people watching this know, this film has really built up a big cult following in the last 10 or 15 years. A lot of that is due to a good friend of ours, Phil Blankenship,
Absolutely.
who has the Heavy Midnight series in LA, and he's been showing this film for years. And that's really where I think really where a lot of the cult for this movie started in the last 15 years. And then another friend of ours, Millie DeCherico, was hipped to the movie via those screenings, and she was, of course, had started and was programming the TCM Underground program on TCM. So she started showing the movie on TCM Underground. And but again, it was, it wasn't available in a good physical version. The version that played on TCM was better than the VHS tapes. And obviously, when it played theatrically, there is a 35 millimeter print. But when you wanted to watch it at home, yeah, you were kind of like, and if you wanted a physical version of it, there really wasn't anything except for, as I said, the long out of print tapes and the Laserdisc, which was a Japanese import only. So yeah, it's great to bring this one back, and super excited with the response to it. Super fun movie. we have an interview on the disc with the star of the movie, Cynthia Dale, and she was just total. She was a really a champ, a real pleasure to speak with. We did an interview with her several months ago, and she appreciates and knows about the following for this film, and that doesn't always happen. So she was really appreciative. She knows it's no masterpiece, but it's also was like an opportunity for her to star in a film. So anyway, check it out when you get the disc. We have a great conversation all about that. She's very, she's very frank and funny and so that was fun. And then we've got a commentary track with Millie and with Jeffrey Mixed, who's also a big fan of the movie, former Shout Factory, longtime Shout Factory guy. And so they have a lot of fun. We, hope to have Phil on here. A lot of people have asked us, why isn't Phil on this disc? And he just wasn't available, unfortunately. So yeah, it's got the original soundtrack. What else? What else can we say?
Well, I love that you talking
Uh,
about the VHS, and you've tried to wonderfully
Oh yeah.
recreate
The
that key.
packaging, yeah, of course, the packaging for us, anybody that follows our label knows how important packaging and design is to us. And I love, obviously we know Key, like this was released on Key Video, as any I'm sure everybody here watching knows. And we know there are cult followings, not just for movies, but there are cult followings for video labels and for film companies too, whether it's Key Video or Canon. So yeah, we love paying tribute to that, which of course we do here with Heavenly Bodies. Then, of course, as always, we have reversible wrap on there. So you've got some other artwork. I can't remember what we put on there. I think we've got some Italian artwork with the Italian, with that yeah, it was released as Scratch Dance in Italy.
Very
And
nice.
yeah, and so have a lot of fun sourcing all the different marketing elements and artwork and everything that exists for the movie. And there was so much good stuff for this movie that figured let's just try to use all of that original vintage stuff.
Yeah.
So,
No, I
so
love
yeah,
that you do that. I love that you have that affection for the old promotional materials, and you are a collector of that stuff, and you have been for as long as I've known you. And you have like, you turned me on to a lot of interesting, press books and things that I didn't even realize were part of the,
yeah.
promotion
Well,
process.
the nice thing about what I'm doing here with with Fun City is it's given me an outlet to for all of that, all of that collecting of this kind of stuff, whether it's old video versions of films or whether it's posters or press books or lobby cards or what have you. Now the only stuff I collect is stuff for our movies, basically, to use it for our releases. So
It's great.
yeah,
I love
it's
it.
a
I
good
love
way to channel what would otherwise be, I don't know, you could argue about how useful
it.
that collecting impulse or whatever it is.
Well,
So
it's you've made a
good
good use of it, I think.
good to
It's
find a healthy use for it, and
definitely.
people appreciate it. So yeah,
And Heavenly Bodies is doing pretty well, right? It's selling pretty well.
Heavenly Bodies is, yeah, it's funny. It definitely is one of our better sellers for sure, and
That's great.
obviously it got a lot of social media response right away. Yeah, and I again, I really think a lot of that has to do with all of the championing that Phil and Millie did for this movie over the years. I
Yeah.
really don't think that can be understated.
No,
So
you're totally right. It is a rare case where, well, I mean, not that rare, maybe, but like where you can almost see ground zero with this movie, and it has always for me been Phil. And Phil has always said this is his favorite movie, and this is a big one, and he's screened it many times. And I've been to theatrical screenings, which are absolutely wonderful to see with a crowd.
yeah, no, I would
Uh,
love to. They've never happened. They really haven't happened out here.
mm,
So I never saw one of his. I mean, I don't think, but it's possible I missed one at Nighthawk or Draft House out here or something. We did actually do screenings there were screenings recently at various Draft House theaters of Heavenly Bodies, and they did play this new version of the our restoration of it. So
Awesome. That's very cool. I saw those were coming up at the draft house. That's really cool. Yeah, very, very excited about this. This is really cool. And I know one of your missions is always to try and get things that haven't been released on disc. And this one's been MIA for far too long. So this is really wonderful.
absolutely, absolutely. And also, it just helps that it's. I mean, again, I'm like you said, I'm always trying to, I'm always trying to unlock. You're always trying to unlock those movies that have been MIA or are not available for whatever reason. It's a lot. It's for me that is more satisfying and more fun than most of the time than say putting something out that's already been out before or
Yeah.
is out in other versions. So
No, I love that stuff. Before we get to actually another one of those titles, which is another one of your new ones, I just want to talk about this booklet design that you did,
yes,
and
yeah,
it
yeah,
reflects both this and Paradise, which we're going to talk about in a second. So it
right,
has
right,
this sort
yeah.
of Fun City channel
Back it up a little towards you.
like that.
Yeah. Oh, it's just on my screen. It's coming. It is very bright.
Yeah, it's
The
blown out a little bit,
a
but
little blown out. Yeah,
I'll show
yeah,
the
yeah.
Paradise one too. But it's really cool. It's like what? So what is this emulating?
It's
Is it?
we basically did a booklet. We did booklets for Paradise and Heavenly Bodies in the design of premium cable guides magazines from the early 80s. So I had a bunch of Z channel guides and HBO guides and various other long defunct premium cable channels in the States. Yeah, it's totally blown out for whatever reason, so it's hard
Yeah,
to
it's
see
just
it. But
it's a little white, but
basically, what we did is we housed the booklet, the essays. We have an essay by Nathan Holmes, who's a film professor and a Toronto native, and these are Canadian. This is Canadian film, as is Paradise. So Nathan, who also wrote the essay for our Duddy Kravitz Blu-ray, he wrote a booklet essay for this film and really gives you a lot of background on the Toronto bona fides of the film because that's where Nathan's from. And I really want that Canadian perspective. This Canadian film, even though, of course, they don't really advertise it as such. I don't
yeah,
think they really ever say, we're in Toronto,
no.
but that's where they are.
But you can
And
hear it. You
so,
can hear it in the accents in most of the
well,
characters.
of course you can hear it in the accents, but I just
Yeah,
mean like within the
yeah.
story,
No,
they
no,
just
you're
treat
right.
it, they just treat it as being as anywhere USA. So yeah, so and then we also have an essay on the soundtrack by Margaret Barton Fumo. She's a DJ and a film journalist and a good friend of mine, and she's written a bunch of booklet essays for us, a lot of times about the soundtracks. So
Nice.
we have an essay on the soundtrack in there. But it's all housed within sort of a replica of a cable guide from that time. And the reason why I decided to do that was because Heavenly Bodies and Paradise, the other film we're going to discuss, are both films that found a lot of their audience back in the day on cable, on HBO, and on other premium channels. And so it was a lot of fun to do. It was something that was in my mind for a while to do something like that. And so we have the real listings, but we doctored them to, include our films in them. So it's very
Yeah, I
if you
love
look
that.
at it really closely, yeah, so we show other Fun City movies as playing that month on the Fun City channel.
Yeah,
So
I love it.
yeah, and if you look on the front, the other thing that was fun to do was the Z channel guide. If you open up to the next page, the Z channel guides, they would have a celebrity subscriber. They would every month they would show you like celebrity subscribers because Z channel was, for people that don't know, was based in LA. And so it was a regional cable channel. It's, kind of legendary. There's a documentary about it that came out about 20 years ago, which is great.
Yeah,
And a lot of the people that subscribed to the Z channel back in the day were industry people, were filmmakers, actors, people that were in in LA, in Hollywood. And so the celebrity subscribers, that was something I wanted to replicate in here. And all the celebrity subscribers in these magazines all have Fun City editions connections. So
yeah.
yeah,
So
here
we got
we
Joe
got Joe
Spinell.
Spinell, Frank Perry, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. And
Yeah,
they're all favorites of mine as well. Yeah, so fun to do, and people oftentimes overlook the booklets, which is always annoying to me because you know, because we work hard on those too. I mean, not just us, but everybody. Those are that is part of the package, but oftentimes they never get mentioned.
yeah,
Multiple times I'll have to ask a reviewer, could you mention the booklet and the essay as well? Because you're a writer,
Yeah,
and I want everybody to get I want those people that say wrote a booklet essay for us to get a shout out as well.
absolutely. No, and it's an important part. I know that we talked about how slipcovers have become the obsession of collectors, but I know there's
Yeah.
a decent amount of collectors who are like all about booklets too. They really want a nice booklet with a good
Yeah.
essay and stuff like that. So
But
you've taken care of
yeah, and I
them.
should also mention that the booklets are also only printed in the first pressing. So those booklets, once we sell out of the first round of Heavenly Bodies in Paradise, and this goes for all of our films, the booklets don't get repressed. It's
Now,
just
just so I'm clear, so is it you have the same amount of booklets as you have slipcovers, or do you have booklets that go into the standard editions as
no, the
well?
booklets in the standard edition also.
Great,
The
great.
only difference is the slipcover. But then, like I say, like once this whole first pressing sells out, standard edition, slipcover edition, we will just repress the movie, the disc, and it still will have a double-sided wrap, but we don't reprint the booklets. So,
Good to know. That's good for people to know. Well, moving
yeah.
on to Paradise, which, as you mentioned, is another cable favorite and a movie that I actually hadn't seen. I thought I had seen it. It was just one
Mhm.
of those that, and in this case, you've duplicated or reworked the Embassy video
Yeah, yeah,
logo, which
yeah,
I
yeah.
love.
So yeah, we redid the key video logo for us, and now yeah, the embassy logo. Yeah,
So
there.
talk about Paradise. This is a movie I know you've talked to me about before, and like I
Yeah,
said, I thought I had seen it, but for whatever reason, when I was watching the lovely looking new Blu-ray, I was like,
yeah,
I don't remember this. I don't remember the ending. So either I watched it and don't remember it, or I didn't see it. And so it was nice
yeah,
to see it in this wonderful edition for the first
yeah.
time.
Well, I'm glad if it was the first time you saw it that you got to see it this way. It looks great. Obviously, in this case we had the original. We had access to the original camera negative. And the other really cool thing about this was I didn't know until we got the scans from the original negative, um, 35 millimeter camera negative, which is held at the Cinémathèque Québécoise. Um, that it turned out to be a longer version of the movie than anybody's seen. Um, this version is like, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes longer than any version anybody has seen before. There was some
Excellent.
confusion because early home video editions had the wrong running time, and which is not uncommon. I mean,
No, no,
maybe they just rounded up, but
I've seen that.
basically
Yeah.
the early video, all the video editions pretty much in the 80s listed the running time as 99 minutes, but the actual running time is more like 95, 96 minutes. Our version actually is 99, 100 minutes. So, and as soon as I was looking at the scans, I was like, whoa, whoa, I've seen this movie a lot of times, but it had been like 20 years or more since I've seen the movie, but I still was like, whoa, this scene, I've never seen this before. So there are some entirely new scenes in this version of Paradise that we have, which is again from the original camera negative. We did 4K scan of the negative. We didn't cut these scenes back in. This is how the movie was originally cut. The original cut negative of the film was this one. Now, at some point before this movie was released to theaters by Embassy, somebody must have decided we need to, cut it down by a few minutes. And so it was cut by, like I say, about 5 minutes or so. And also there are some other scenes on our version that are cut maybe a little bit differently than what anybody has seen in other versions before. And then also some of the scenes just have like there's some dialogue extensions, like there are extensions of scenes that are already there. So altogether, anybody that's seen this movie before is going to be like, and I know there's a lot of big fans of this movie because this one has really also done really well for
Nice.
us. I mean, it's definitely been our biggest, fastest seller, even
Oh,
faster
wow.
than Heavenly Bodies.
Wow.
I think that we know why that is.
Yes, of course. Yes.
That is because it's the first movie that Phoebe Cates appeared in. It's Phoebe Cates' first movie. It was done about a year before Fast Times, and so it's an important movie for, I guess, for people of a certain generation. It was a formative movie. Phoebe
Yeah.
Cates is formative. Or it was she was an actress that was important to um, yeah, the formative years for the coming
Well,
of age
well put.
for for
Delicately and well
probably
put.
a couple of generations of people. So yeah, so there was a lot of excitement about it. I kind of, and when we were pursuing Heavenly Bodies, I also really earmarked this title as another from the same rights holder, that I felt like, well, this one also has a similar kind of, people have a similar hankering for this one too. It's also, like Heavenly Bodies, not really been seen for the most part, at least in this country, has not been seen since the VHS Laserdisc days. Actually, I don't think both films had Japanese Laserdiscs. In this country, they were only VHS and Beta and CED releases, RCA, CED, Select Division. So basically, this film also did have some official DVD releases. Paradise did, but not in the US. There was a European DVD that was an official release. And there's some Asian DVDs. I'm not sure of their provenance, if they were totally kosher or not. But anyway, this is the first time really that it's been available. Actually, both films. This is the first time either film's been available in widescreen, and it's the first time that both either film has had a HD era master. These other everything else before was was a standard def
Um,
derived
Talk about
master.
the soundtrack too, because I texted you about this specifically. You
Oh
have two
yeah,
options for the
yes, yes.
soundtrack.
Right. So another thing is, this movie, when it came out, when Paradise came out theatrically, it had a theme song, the theme from Paradise, that was sung by Phoebe Cates. It appeared over the end credits. It also appeared in an instrumental version in another scene earlier in the film, and and Phoebe, traveled uh, in Europe and Italy. It was a big hit, so you can find YouTube videos of Phoebe Cates performing the theme on Italian TV. It was a big hit in Japan also. It wasn't really as much of a hit in the US, but there was a single released here. And then in other territories, she actually released a full LP um, called Paradise, which included the theme from Paradise and then about 9 other songs. Um, but at some point, the video versions of the film featured they removed the Phoebe Cates song, the theme from Paradise, and it was replaced with more of the original score by Paul Hoffert, the composer of the original score. So what we found when we got this negative was that the whole soundtrack was the Paul Hoffert score. So in fact, the original version of this movie was entirely scored by Paul Hoffert. There was no Phoebe Cates song. Again, like I said, at some point before they released this movie, when they were getting it ready to go, and an embassy became involved, it was the head of Avco Embassy at the time. It was actually Frank Capra Jr., who was the head of Avco Embassy. He he apparently is the one who prompted the guys who wrote the song Paradise to write the song and put that in this movie and have Phoebe Cates sing it. So it happened later. And so our version here has both soundtracks. And since we had the original dialogue, effects, and music tracks, I was able to recreate the theatrical soundtrack with the Phoebe Cates songs, sort of on my own. I did a mix with, because I had the other elements. I had the stems.
Nice.
I had the dialogue and I had the effects. So so yeah, the sound quality is the same. I didn't, in other words, what I'm saying is I didn't have to say rip the soundtrack from an old Laserdisc or something like that and use that. I was able to sort of like recreate from the best elements the Phoebe Cates, the theatrical soundtrack. So what you have on our Blu-ray is you have the theatrical soundtrack, you have the pre-release soundtrack, which is the Paul Hoffert score in total. We also have an isolated score track, the Paul Hoffert score in isolation, because we had the isolated music. So I figured, well, let's put that on there. And then we also have a commentary by Nathaniel Thompson, who runs the great Mondo Digital website. and he gives a great commentary because
He's an old pro.
he's of the right age. Also,
Oh yeah.
he can give the context to he gives the context to um the time when this movie was made and how it was made and why, and especially for younger audience members, and see some of these movies are kind of like, how the fuck did this movie, like, how was this,
Well, I
how was
mean,
this a thing back then?
so I mean, it
And
was a direct response to Blue Lagoon, right? I mean, that's known, I
yeah,
think.
I mean, certainly both Heavenly Bodies and Paradise are commonly referred to as like sort of Canadian ripoff movies, like Paradise with Blue Lagoon, Heavenly Bodies with Flashdance, and so yeah, there's definitely some of that for sure. There's I mean, there's a lot of that, but then there's also unique things. There's things in Paradise that are unique to Paradise.
Oh yeah.
And at the time, there was a lawsuit. Columbia Pictures sued Embassy to try to stop the release of Paradise.
Mm.
And basically, from what I understand, part of how it got dismissed was that the story, the source novel for the Blue Lagoon, was in the public domain already.
Oh.
And so the response from Embassy was like, "Hey, we could have just made another Blue Lagoon and called it the Blue Lagoon if we wanted to, because the source is in the public domain at this
That's
point." So
hilarious.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
no, it's definitely I get when I watch it now, I get exactly why it was a sort of phenomenon on cable and on home video.
yeah,
Um it's definitely a
but
movie that lines up with all that when you watch it. Like, okay, yeah, I get it. I get it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
both. I think the Vincent Canby had a quote. There weren't a lot of good reviews for this movie, of course, but there's a funny quote or something where I think Vincent Canby in the New York Times said, both actors look very very good in and out of loincloths or something like that. So
Nicely
yeah,
done. So this one also has a nice
yeah,
Fun City guide.
it's the FC channel guide. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you have essays by Amanda Reyes in here, which is great.
yeah. We have an Amanda Reyes, and we have another essay by Margaret Barton Fumo, and she writes about the song, which
Oh
I
yeah, Theme for
yeah,
Paradise.
yeah, I'm a soundtrack. I'm totally a soundtrack nerd. So I thought, and that song was a huge hit, like everywhere in the world, basically, except for the States. So it's interesting. She does background on like how many different cover versions of Paradise there were, which are a lot, actually,
Wow,
believe it.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
That theme song exists in multiple languages, instrumental versions, vocal versions.
It's great. I mean, it's a great song. Like
It does stick in your ear. It's an
I
eardrum.
I think it's a
Yeah.
really great closer to the movie, and I love
Yeah.
it. So,
We
and I
also
love
had
that.
to re and we also had to re-clear that song too, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I
So
bet.
so yeah.
So
Both of these Heavenly Bodies in Paradise involved music, re-clearing music. So
I
yeah.
just wanted to point out you got different celebrity subscribers in this one. You've got
Yeah,
Jenny Agutter and Jack
yeah.
Nietzsche and Bobby
Yeah.
Roth, director
Yeah,
of
and again, they
Heartbreakers.
all have Fun City connections because Jenny Agutter is the star of I Star Counting. Jack Nietzsche did the music for Cutter's Way, and Bobby Roth, director of Heartbreakers. And that picture of Bobby Roth is actually from a Z channel. That is, he was a celebrity subscriber 1 month in Z channel.
Oh,
So
that's his real. Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's a great
yeah,
little bit.
that's where I took that from.
That's so cool. Yeah, and you've got different, examples of Fun City movies in the sides
Yeah,
here, and then it's
yeah,
great. It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
really neat. It's actually one of my favorite booklets that I've seen in a long time because it has that overriding thematic,
Yeah.
and it's
Oh, and
very
show the back. If you could show the back of that,
yeah,
please.
yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Again, maybe a little blown out, but
Yeah, sorry.
that is an ad for the single for Paradise, as you can
Okay.
see. Um, and my designer, Scott Saslow, showed it to me, and I thought it was a real ad. I thought it
It,
was really from a magazine
wow,
from the
this
time.
I'm sh
He made that ad though.
that's
He created
impressive.
that.
It's
Yeah,
really
I mean, I thought he did a great job
he even
with the
has the
fonts.
he has the little Columbia logo and that really
Oh
helps
yeah, yeah.
sell
I
it
mean, he
too.
probably looked at. I'm sure he looked at some real ads. Back then, there were a lot more print. There was a lot more print journalism. There were a lot more magazines, and they would advertise, albums and movies coming out and stuff like that. So I don't know if he looked at some ads, but it
It's
definitely has the
beautiful.
font. The font is right on. It looks
Yeah.
like ads from that time,
Well, there's
and
something about the quality of the photography too. It's like I don't know, it's like a not a grain, I can't even express it, but it looks of its time. You know what I mean? Like I
I
can't.
know. I think that picture that he found is of its time. He said it's even. I think it even is a picture of like the Sea of Galilee or something.
Oh
But
wow.
this movie was made in Israel, so he was like, "I'm making it really, really specific to the movie. It's really accurate."
He absolutely killed it. Because if you hadn't told me, I would have totally thought
Yeah.
this was the
What
real.
does it say on there?
It
What
says,
is it?
listen to it on your way to paradise.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, sounds good. Well, okay, so let's move on to some upcoming releases. I think
Yeah.
the one that's coming the most quickly is called Welcome to Fun City, which
Yeah.
is it says a marathon of trailers, TV spots, and radio spots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about this and the origins of it and what it's all about.
Yeah. So this has just been like I've seen a lot of trailer compilations have come out over the years. Different labels have done different themes. They've done a lot of them are more genre, a lot of obviously a lot of horror and exploitation kind of themed trailer compilations. And I just thought, wow, all these and they're all sourced, they're usually sourced from actual collectors' trailers. And I just thought, wow, there's so many other trailers that don't
This
yeah,
genre. Yeah.
that is a artwork by Tom Ralston, who's done a lot of beautiful art for us, including the Paradise slipcover
I love it.
and the Deep in the Heart one. And so anyway, I love trailers. I love trailer compilations. I love seeing how movies were marketed and sold. And I always love when there's a trailer on a disc. It's always fun to see how a movie was how they tried to sell it. And so, but anyway, so there's all these trailer compilations, but they usually don't include anything that isn't genre. It's got to be like action or martial arts or horror or somehow trashy sleaze. But then you're not going to see the trailer for drama on there. And so I just thought, well, if we did one that's just New York movies made in Fun City, which obviously is the inspiration for the name of our company. Fun City being the New York of the 60s and 70s and the early 80s. At least that's how I kind of think of it. Um, and I just thought, well, it would be so fun to do a collection of trailers of all movies made in New York in that time period. And that would include horror, that would include dramas, that would include cop movies, that would include blaxploitation, everything, every type of movie that was made in New York at the time. And so that's basically it. So what we did, but the thing was we weren't going to have anything, we weren't going to have anything that's taken from the internet or taken from any pre-existing disc. Everything on this compilation is a fresh scan of a real film element. It's all
Wow.
35 millimeter or 16 millimeter scans, or in the case of radio spots, 7-inch radio spots.
Wow.
So yeah, we have radio spots, TV spots, and teasers, teaser trailers, and regular trailers. Um, and there's probably over 200, I would say,
Yeah,
200 movie, yeah,
two
something
disc.
like that.
I didn't even realize this was a two disc collection. That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, it's gonna be. It got bigger than I thought it was gonna be. So yeah, so everything on here is a new scan, and there's a lot of stuff on here that isn't online anywhere, isn't on a DVD, isn't on a Blu-ray. So which I'm really excited about. And we borrowed and sourced trailers from archives and collectors, and you know, called in a lot of favors, obviously. Then every trailer has a unique audio commentary by different. You're on there, and
Yeah, I did a few of them.
various other film.
Well, every trailer has one, so that's like hundreds of commentaries. Are we talking about?
Yes,
Is wow,
every trailer has its own commentary.
wow,
I did a bunch, and we have a mix of film writers, filmmakers, actors, um, uh, historians, archivists, programmers, just people that I know, people that we know, just different people in the business who are enthusiasts. And the idea is basically to comment on the New York. I try to mostly have I tried to encourage and tried to have people really talk about the New York aspects of the movie and what you see in the trailer. So I do that a lot on mine. I'll say, hey, in this trailer, you can see this location and that location, and you know. this and that. But yeah, super fun project. I'm really excited about it. And we have an essay by a good friend of mine, Joe Berger, who is one of the founders of a great film series here in New York that's been going on for, he's well over a decade, I think, at this point, called The Deuce,
Oh,
which is an all 35 millimeter monthly series at the Nighthawk Cinema where they show a film that played on 42nd Street, and they do a whole pre-show where they give you a history of whatever theater it played at, on the Deuce, show you trailer. The pre-show includes trailers of all the movies that were playing that week on the Deuce. So
oh,
it's
that's
not just the
cool.
movie, there's like a whole context around it, which is great. And so yeah, and Joe's a New Yorker also, so super detailed, passionate essay about the history of trailers and also, you know, Fun City and the history of how movies really started to get made in such uh, you know, big numbers in that Fun City era, in that John Lindsay era, and that's when all these classic, you know, when Midnight Cowboy and Dog Day Afternoon and even in movies like we've released, like Born to Win, like all those movies got made in this, you know, time period when the city was pretty down on its heels and kind of, you know, it was famously bankrupt, and but yet there was this newly formed mayor's office for film and TV and broadcasting, and so all these movies got to be made sort of officially through the city, you know, through official channels essentially. So it was like also a money maker for the city, and the city really needed it. And so yeah, that's how you got all these movies made in New York at the time. And it's funny because they show the city most of the time, warts and all.
Definitely worth small.
So the city was making money from these films, you know, not being, they're not shot guerrilla style is what I mean. You know, like they were made with permission. You know, they had permissions to shoot in all these different locations, but they obviously didn't have like real limits on what they could show or not show.
Yeah.
Hence,
So
you have all these movies that show you it's, you know, it's like the good, the bad, and the ugly of New York in all these movies. And so anyway, with the trailer compilation, you could see all that because
yeah.
because all the trailers, I didn't pick if the trailer, if a trailer didn't really have a lot of actual New York footage, I didn't include it. Like there's some
Oh,
trailers that are New York movies, but I didn't include them because either, well, and there's other movies we just didn't get there's going to be some movies people are like, how come this isn't there? How come that's not there?
of
And the reason
course.
it's not there is because I couldn't get an actual print of the trailer to borrow to scan because I wasn't going to rip off, you know, say the Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3 from a Blu-ray. I mean, you could see it anyway. It's not, it's everywhere. So yeah, so Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3 is like one of those ones that I wish it was on there. It's one of a few omissions that I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to have it, but at the same time, you could see it so many different places. And the
Yeah.
whole point, the concept was to, or one of the missions of it was to only have new, fresh scans. So nothing ripped off of a
Wow.
Blu-ray on here.
Very
So
ambitious.
that's why I took 2.5 years or more to do this fucking thing.
That's so cool, man. That's awesome. I don't know if I heard you say that it was all new scans, so that's really impressive, especially with all that material. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
So beyond that, we've got two more releases to talk about briefly. Both longtime favorites of yours and mine. The
Yeah.
first one we'll talk about is Lifeguard,
Yeah.
with the great Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
Uh, just a wonderful character study. Um,
Yeah.
and just a wonderful movie. Talk about why this film, and we can talk about the features too, which I just noticed. I hadn't seen the features until just looking at the
Oh,
website.
sure. Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah. These are this is a movie that's part of the our licensing deal with Paramount. And yeah, I mean, again, hasn't come out on Blu-ray. There was a DVD. It was, you know, it was a Paramount DVD, then it was Warner Archive, but it's never been available on Blu-ray anywhere. And I love this movie. And yeah, it's so much in my wheelhouse because this is a 70s movie. It's a character movie. It's, you know, it's not a super plot heavy movie, which frankly often bores the shit out of me. And But yeah, it's just Sam Elliott, man. It's his first, I think it's his first like real starring role in a feature film, theatrical film, and he just kills it in this movie. I mean,
Oh my God.
he looks amazing in this movie. I mean, some of the funniest things I saw like responses to this movie when we announced it, because it's gotten a lot of traction. I didn't even realize how beloved this movie was, but I
Nice.
saw some funny comments like, "Yeah, there's the movie that when I saw it, that's when I knew I was gay." And I'm like,
He
"Yeah, man, I get that.
absolutely.
And that's
He's a
and
specimen, man. He is a
yeah, but
specimen.
it's funny because this is a movie. Again, it's one of those movies that people are going to be like, "Wow, holy shit, this is PG." Because it's a movie made for grown-ups. It's not a kids movie,
Definitely not.
but in that time period, the movies were made. There wasn't really um there wasn't really a market for like teen movies per se. It was like, okay, you had Disney movies, and then you had movies like this that were like it was a PG movie, and which is kind of incredible again because there's nudity in this movie. And it's an adult, it's a movie dealing with adult issues and adult themes. But that was par for the course in the 70s, right? There were movies were yeah, people are always like, holy shit, this was PG. And so this is one of those movies. But a lot of people but because of the fact that it was PG, a lot of people saw it who were kids at the time. And in fact, one of those people is Ben Reiser, who we love, who's on our commentary with Jim Healy. Ben Reiser and Jim Healy of the Wisconsin Cinematheque in Madison, Wisconsin, both
Our
yours and mine, alma
yeah, our
mater.
alma
That's where we
mater. Yep.
met.
Yep.
Those guys do amazing work at the Cinematheque. If you're ever in Madison, you got to check it out. They do free
Hmm.
screenings, amazing, really well programmed calendar. And they also do the Wisconsin Film Festival there. And sometimes we show Fun City movies there, which we did last year with Deep in the Heart. Anyway, Ben grew up in Brooklyn, and in the 70s, he saw this movie. I think he says on the commentary he saw it like 3 times at his neighborhood theater. And that's what, and I've heard that so often from people of that age who like saw like a movie, like if it was a movie they really liked and it was out for a few weeks, they saw it a few times. And it was like, "Oh, I'm going to see it with this group of friends, or I'm going to see it by myself." And anyway, Ben and Jim do an amazing job on the commentary on this. They really don't waste a moment, and it's really well researched. I had the press kit for this film, the original press kit, and it's like one of those where it's like, that thick, all the packets of information on LifeGuard. So I took pictures of all of it and gave it to them so they had that to research. But they did other research because they're at the UW, so they've got amazing library there of, libraries there, to do research in as well. So really good commentary track, very smart, gives it a lot of context. And I really wanted to make sure that, sorry, Birdie is making a little bit of noise. I
He's
wanted to make
welcome.
sure again that people, I like the same thing with Nathaniel on Paradise. When people who were there can really speak to the time period in which this movie was produced and came out, and how it was received and everything, especially for younger audiences that who weren't around in the 70s or in the 80s.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a different time.
Yeah.
And this
It's
movie,
a really neat story because it really has to do with this lifeguard. This guy who's been a lifeguard for a really long time, and he's at a point in his life where he, there's not necessarily pressure to move on, but in some ways there is.
oh, there's totally pressure to move on.
Yeah, in terms
That's
of
the
the
whole thing.
relation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Early on there's not, but then it becomes a thing where he's
yeah.
like he potentially could take a real job and it's
Well,
like
yeah,
will he, won't
right.
he? And I can really relate to that because I was a guy who worked in a video store for a long time after college, and it's not the
Mhm.
same job, but in the same it's a similar kind of notion of like it's time to get a real job, it's time to grow up.
Right,
and
right.
and I've just so I could really relate to this story, and it's always
Mhm.
hooked right into me, and he's just so good in it, and great supporting cast of ladies as well, so it's a wonderful film.
No, it's super relatable. And I think if anything, it's kind of like, if anything, it's looking ahead to our generation and younger than us who tend to maybe stay kids longer or not, our parents, generation and before was kind of like get out of school and you get a job and oftentimes you get that you stay at that same company for your whole career.
Hmm.
And it that that bubble burst, and it and and this movie is sort of in a way, because this character, I mean, he's more of an outlier back then, like you said, because he's supposed to be like 30, early 30s, and everybody's like, get a real job, and it's like, wow, if you fast forward 20 years, 30 years after this movie, and it's like he wouldn't be that weird at all.
Nope.
There'd be tons of other 30-year-old, 30 somethings working in quote unquote not real jobs, you know, video
Yeah.
stores, coffee shops, lifeguards.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very excited. This is one I've been waiting for. It looks like you've got a booklet essay as well for this.
Yeah, there's a booklet essay by our Christina Cacioppo, our friend who's she's a programmer at the Nighthawk Cinema
Very nice. Very
in
nice.
Brooklyn, and formerly Alamo Draft House, and before that the 92Y Tribeca. She's a big fan of the film. So
Awesome.
she wrote an essay, and yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, cannot wait for that. I know these are TBD on the street date, but these are pre-orders that you
yeah,
can get at Fun
yeah,
City Editions right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Got to move on.
We're in production. These are all like in coding now. They're in production.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, we got to talk about the last thing we'll talk about, and I'll let you go, is a movie that I associate very exclusively with you, and that's Racing with the Moon, Richard Benjamin's movie.
Yes.
I think I had heard of it, but it was definitely a movie I remember you pushed like pointing me to when we first were getting to know each other. And you've got new artwork for that one as well. Sean Penn, of course. So Sean Penn, as long as I've known you, has been a big deal for you. And this movie and Bad Boys were two that I always remember you talking about
I talked
early
about
on.
those.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But so this is really exciting though, because Racing with the Moon, like I said, one of the big ones for you that I've always thought about you in relation to, and you're getting to release it. So that's really neat.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this was a film that I recall. I feel like it was in my formative years. It was one of those movies that was in heavy rotation on HBO, or Cinemax, and I was a big fan of Sean Penn from Fast Times, and so I basically saw all of his movies after that, and I really think he's one of the best. I think he's the best actor of that generation, of that period. And if you look at the films he made in the 80s, when he was a really young actor in his early 20s, he made really like there's so many fluff movies from that time. There's so much garbage, or just kind of kid stuff, kind of movies that are just junky, I think. I mean, fun stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff, but there's a lot of films that were like, I think, anyway, where I think he didn't really, the only time he ever did that, where he did a movie for the money, was Shanghai Surprise with Madonna. That's like the only, but I think most of the time he was pretty smart with the movies he made, and he always did a different, he was like chameleon-like, like he always was like, wow, that's Spicoli in Bad Boys, and then in Racing with the Moon, it's another transformation. He's a different character. And in this film, it's a coming of age story. It's another movie about first love. It's set in the early 1940s, and so it's World War II, and it's beautiful, like northern coastal California. They shot it up in like Mendocino and Fort Bragg, beautifully. It's shot by John Bailey.
Oh, nice.
Great cinematographer who just passed away in the last year or so, I think. And really beautifully designed. And again, Nicolas Cage, one of his first parts after Valley Girl. And Cage and Penn had been in Fast Times together, of course. And Elizabeth McGovern coming off of Ordinary People and Ragtime. So she was also so acclaimed at the time, and really, these were like they were top young actors at that time. And it's a really beautiful, very sensitively done, not sensational, kind of. It's a kind of another kind of throwback, kind of smartly done throwback kind of drama, romance, with just some great actors at top of their game and sort of at the start of their careers, and also never been available on Blu-ray anywhere. So.
And is
uh,
it Benjamin's follow to My Favorite
My
Year?
favorite year. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's another thing I love is that I think that movie's gotten a nice resurgence in the last 15 years and has a nice Blu-ray and everything. And he shows himself to be a really great director of actors
Yeah. I,
and
I
so
kind of, yeah, I
sorry.
kind of feel, well, sorry, go on.
No. I was just going to say it's so people know that movie, but they don't know this one. And this is the movie. So if you like My Favorite Year, granted, this is a different type of
Yeah.
thing, but it's also a
Yeah.
period piece. It's also Richard Benjamin, and it's really well done. And I think
Funny
people
thing is, I
should.
knew this movie. I'd seen this movie many times before I saw My Favorite Year.
Ah,
But yeah, I mean, they were both well received at the time. This movie got incredible reviews. Um, it really was but it was really another perfect example of a sleeper. It got great reviews, but I don't think it didn't really make a huge dent at the box office. But um, but it had good reviews even back then. Everybody, there. I mean, I had so many good quotes to pull when I was doing a little research. Just so many good, very enthusiastic raves for this movie. But yeah, you're right. Now, for whatever reason, it's not a movie that people really talk about that much. But I will say, like, I think Sean Penn is a divisive kind of figure for one reason or another. Um, but he is in this movie, for him anyway. This is such a mostly likable character. I mean, he's not he still has an edge to him. If Sean Penn's always going to have an edge, like I think in any part that he plays. But it's like a nice. It's like a very much like for him a nice guy role, but not in a boring or dull or vanilla way.
no, and I love him and Cage together in this. They're great. They're really good
They have
together.
great chemistry. You could tell they were buddies at the time. Like they were. I'm sure they were. They were between both Penns, Chris and Sean. Nick is definitely he's in films with each of those guys. So
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they were buddies, I think, in real life too, at this time. So yeah,
you
you
can
could
feel it.
tell it comes through because they're supposed to be, they're best friends in the movie, and you could tell. Yeah, they play beautifully off each other. And Elizabeth McGovern and Sean Penn were engaged actually after this movie.
Oh wow.
They were a real couple. I mean, from the movie, and it comes through in the film. They have amazing chemistry. You can tell. It's the same thing with Jeremy. Similar to Jeremy, how the two stars fell in love on the making of the movie, and that's what happened in this movie. And then Madonna came along, and that ended the Elizabeth McGovern and Sean Penn relationship.
Yeah.
But they were engaged.
Wow, I did not remember that or know that. So this is
Yeah.
cool. You've got some archival, you got an archival making of from the DVD and the archival Richard Benjamin commentary.
Yes.
But then I did for whatever reason I missed the newly recorded commentary. Very, very exciting. I'm a
Yeah.
fan of both the folks that you've got for this. You got
Yeah.
Mr. Bill Ackerman and Mariah E. Gates
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
talking about this. That's very exciting for
That's
me.
great. And they're great, and I mean, Bill, you and I both know Bill very well, and Bill has done a lot of work for us in the past, and he's a good friend.
Hmm.
And I gotta say, I mean, if people knew how above and beyond Bill Ackerman goes in his research for commentaries, this guy, I mean, he'll travel across the country to go to an archive, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, he might go do some other stuff there too, but I mean, he always blows me away with the stuff he uncovers. So anyway,
Yeah, he's incredible.
you're gonna learn some stuff. There's definitely stuff. And then of course the Richard Benjamin commentary, you're gonna get the firsthand commentary and experience from the man who made the movie. And then we also have a booklet essay by Walter Chow. And we've talked about him, I think you and I on
Yeah.
here before, because he's done multiple commentaries and essays for us. And Walter's a huge fan of this movie. For him, it's also a formative movie. And he has some great stuff. It's beautiful, really poetic essay that he wrote. And you can tell he really has feeling for it. And also he's friendly with Ratunya Alda, who plays um, Sean Penn's mother in the movie. And I want to say, like, the movie, I mean, mostly revolves around the young people, but in the film, John Carlin and Ratunya Alda as Sean Penn's parents are so well drawn. They don't have a lot of screen time, but the the relationship between between Sean Penn and his parents in the movie is really beautifully drawn, really really again, really sensitively done, but very just spot on. The casting and the writing is just spot on. Oh, that's the other thing is the movie is written by Steve Kloves.
Oh, wow. I
Or does he
forgot about
pronounce it
that.
Clovis? I don't know if he pronounces it Cloves or Clovis, but
That's a good question.
Steve, yeah, and he was like 20 in his early 20s when he wrote this movie. It's his first credit. He, of course, then
Wow.
went on to do The Fabulous Baker Boys as writer and director, Flesh and Bone, and then, of course, made all his money with the Harry Potter movies writing those.
Yeah.
So
He's no
this is where he
slouch.
started.
No slouch as
Yeah.
a writer. That's great. Yeah, really exciting stuff. I should let you go, but I just wanted to give folks an overview of what's coming. And, you know, so you still have slipcovers available on all three of those new ones, or are they sold out?
No, we still have slipcovers available. They're
Okay.
selling, I mean, it's a, healthy sales on them, but
Yeah.
yeah, they're not sold out yet.
Just
No.
want to make people aware. Like those are website exclusives and they
Yeah.
will sell out. And there's a lot of people that get upset when they don't get them. So we're just here to say, like, if you're thinking about it, you should pick it up.
Right,
You should
right, right.
definitely not
Yeah.
wait
Yeah.
because those are limited. They're really nice slip
Oh
covers.
yeah, and I want to say about the slipcover for the Racing with the Moon one. That was another one I had a lot of fun doing. We have an artist we haven't worked with before, Thin Din, and they did a really beautiful, like kind of looks like colored pencil style drawings, and the suggestion was, and I agreed with it, was to kind of make it look like an old school paperback,
Mm.
like a mass market paperback, and that's kind of what we did. So you can't, I don't know if you can see it all on the site or not, but
You're not gonna be able to pick it up from my phone or anything like, but it's a
yeah,
beautiful
but there's text.
rendering.
We have some new, we have another new Fun City, fake Fun City logo, which is like the Fun City Books logo, and
Nice.
it looks like a like a movie tie-in,
Oh, that's cool.
from the from that time. So
Love
very
it.
excited about that.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah,
Love it. Well, I should cut this short and let you go and hang with your bird and you got a
yeah.
shipping. You're shipping just so folks know, like a lot of the shipping that's going on for all those orders, like you're doing that yourself, and that's a
Yeah. There's
lot.
a yeah. We had, we had like over 1,000 orders to ship in the last I don't know, week or so. And I gotta get to my bird. I don't know what the hell
No,
he's
no, it's
doing,
all good,
but
man. It's all good. Thank
um
you so much for joining me for this. And everybody check out funcityeditions.com for these pre-orders and standard editions of Heavenly Bodies and Paradise are still available there as well. So go check them out. Go pick them up. Thanks
thanks,
so much.
Brian.
Great talking to
Always
you.
fun. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.